This video is about law of diminishing marginal utility. First, we will see what is utility. Utility is the satisfaction that we derive from consuming any commodity or a good. For example, when we consume a cup of ice cream, the amount of satisfaction that we derive from having that cup is called as utility. Then there is a concept of marginal utility. Marginal utility is that additional amount of satisfaction that you will get from that additional unit of ice cream or any other commodity. For example, the marginal utility of the second cup of ice cream is the additional satisfaction that you derive from that second cup, and the marginal utility of the third unit of ice cream is the additional satisfaction that you derive from that third cup, and so on. Now, what does the law of diminishing marginal utility say? The law of diminishing marginal utility says that as the number of units of ice cream that we consume goes up, the level of satisfaction that we derive from that additional units comes down. Generally, we measure the utility using the unit called utils, and we can see that from with more and more units of ice cream cones, the satisfaction from that additional cone decreases and even becomes negative as we consume more and more. As with the assumptions of this law of diminishing marginal utility, we assume that the consumers are assumed to be rational, meaning that they make choices that maximize their utility or satisfaction. And next is measurability, that utility is assumed to be measurable, although it is difficult to quantify in practice. And utility independence, which means that the utility derived from one good or service is assumed to be independent of the consumption of other goods and services. This will be important in while studying complementary or substitute goods. And as usual with any law in economics, the law of diminishing marginal utility also assumes that other factors such as income, prices of other goods and consumer preferences remain constant. However, there are certain exemptions to the law of diminishing marginal utility. For example, collectibles. The value of certain collectibles like rare stamps or art, for which the satisfaction may increase as more and more units are acquired due to their scarcity and desirability. And another example would be of addictive goods like cigarettes, drugs and alcohol. The marginal utility may actually increase with its consumption, leading to the cycle of dependency. There are various uses for the law of diminishing marginal utility. The law helps in explaining the downward slope of the demand curve. As consumers consume more and more of a good, their willingness to pay for each additional unit decreases, as the satisfaction also decreases. The interaction between the downward sloping demand curve with the supply curve ultimately determines the market equilibrium price and quantity. The law of diminishing marginal utility can also be used to analyze the impact of taxation on consumer behavior. By understanding how consumers respond to the changes in prices, policymakers can assess the effectiveness of different tax policies. The law of diminishing marginal utility can also be used for effective pricing strategies by the businesses. By understanding how consumers perceive the value of a product, businesses set prices that maximize their profits while also satisfying the consumer demand. So, what's special about diminishing marginal utility? DMU is a fundamental concept in economics. It has a wide range of application in both economics and business management. And by understanding the satisfaction of consumers and how they respond to prices and consumption, economists gain valuable insights into the consumer behavior, market dynamics, and public policy.